Well, hello, welcome back to Reform UK's 2024 conference, taking place here at the National Exhibition Centre in Birmingham. What a morning. 4,000 people crowded in to the NEC. Really great speeches, actually, that we saw this morning, but also, I think, a sense of optimism. That's what's come across the whole time. But I'm delighted to introduce you now to the one of our speakers this morning, James McMurdoch. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Very exciting.
What was it like?
Well, it was good, actually. It was good. It was a new experience for me. I'm very happy to admit that. But it was really, really exhilarating. The energy here was phenomenal. The crowd were phenomenal. Brilliant.
And what about this idea that Nigel phoned you and said, I've ruined your life? You've been a member of the party for, what, 2 months?
Yeah.
And suddenly you're a member of Parliament with your own staff, parliamentary staff. You're now doing really important things. You've already taken the government to task on a number of issues. That's a bit of a life-changing event.
Well, yes, yes, it is. And to a certain extent, it did ruin my life. But it's also a tremendous privilege. And the thing is, what might surprise people is it's not that hard as long as you're willing to really throw yourself at it. What is being suggested, what's written down, what can you read, what can you find, who can you ask? And then you just dig into it and you think to yourself, look, what is the best thing for the people I'm representing? And when you strip everything away, that's all this is. It's representing the people from my home area, from the people that need my help. That's it.
So when you were speaking, you said that actually, initially, you didn't know who to vote for and you were going to not vote. And then obviously you've ended up on somewhat of a different ride.
Yeah, very, very much so. I genuinely didn't. I was really, really, really cross with the people who are making decisions for us, who take our money out of our pockets via tax, who we don't have any control or say over what they do, or how they take it or how they spend it. And I was just thinking, crikey, what are the options in front of me? How can I feel like I'm being represented? And I was this close to spoiling my ballot. And it was, the stars really aligned. I saw Richard Tice on the television, thought, okay, what's he talking about? That's interesting. The more I dug into it, the more I thought, actually, I can stand behind that. I can see how that would support people, represent people, help the country.
Yeah. It was amazing in election night. As you know, I was doing the broadcast rounds and I saw the exit poll. But then, of course, we had 4 MPs. And then we saw your own announcement. Could you believe it?
Well, I could believe it because there was 3 counts and I won all 3. It was a long night, 15 hours. Got there at 9 at night and we didn't get a result till 6:30 the next afternoon. And it was a fight. The strange thing is, all the work comes before the count. You either convince people or you don't. They're either on board or they're not. But you have a real nervous energy in the room. There's a lot of atmosphere. There's 50,000 ballots to count. There's lots of people there doing it. There's a lot of vested interests from the big parties. They don't want to give up without a fight. So yeah, it was a hell of a night.
And what's it like being a new boy at school? Because I think that's what many of our viewers want to know. What's it like? What was it like when you swore your allegiance? I saw all of you do that, go into the House of Commons itself. I mean, it must have been incredibly surreal and actually quite frightening all at the same time. No,
not frightening, very surreal. The trouble is, this isn't one job, it's lots of different jobs. So it takes time to find your way, it takes time to find out how you can really support people and how you can deliver and how you can influence things. Now, of course, there's a lot of history to the place and the way things are done aren't particularly natural if you're an outsider like me. But the thing is, you're so connected with it when you're in there. You feel such a genuine sense of purpose and it's such a privilege that actually you just throw yourself at it. And yes, I was extremely nervous, at the start. And I got a couple of months in, I looked back and I thought, crikey, yeah, I was a bit overwhelmed by that. But now that I'm just getting to get past that, I'm starting to think, hold on, it's not that hard. Let's break each bit down into what's really required of me, hone those skills, which I've got a very, very long way to go, I admit. But really just focus on those bits and then start to make the case for the things that people at home want.
Amazing. And of course, the collegiate spirit with your other members of Parliament, such as Richard and Nigel and Lee and Rupert, that must be pretty cool.
Oh, it's such a relief. I tell you the truth, I really felt like I might have gate crashed the party. I was like, oh no, I've won. I hope that's okay. But they were so good. They're a really good group of guys. They're so professional. They're so competent. It's a privilege to be amongst them.
Well, I think one of the things that the reason that people are endeared to you is because you're a normal person, you speak in a normal way, and actually that came across incredibly clear this morning.
Thank you. Look, I appreciate that. It's very flattering. At the end of the day, I'm just trying to help people. I'm just trying to do a good job. We had 600 odd candidates stand for reform at short notice with, very little in it for themselves other than to just try and help the country, help the party, help their areas. I was one of those people. I just happened to be the one that got over.
Well, and a barnstorming speech this morning. Thanks ever so much, James. Really good to talk to you. Let's bring in Michael Heaver now, if I may. Now, Mr. Heaver, you and I go back. Dr. Bull, yes. You and I go back a long way, don't we? Because we were in Brussels together.
We were, and I think the last time I saw you was actually in Clacton.
It was in Clacton, yeah.
And it was at that one of the big public meetings that Reform and the Brexit Party are famous for, and you could feel the energy then. And obviously it followed through to achieving something that many people never saw coming, which was not only Nigel obviously becoming a Reform MP, but the likes of James and a few others as well that we're going to hear from shortly at conference. And I think really, David, what that's meant is it's shaken up British politics to a point now where if you look at the polls, who knows where this could now go? It's somewhat unprecedented that Reform consistently picking up support in all the polls, up 4 or 5 points since the election already. And where this leads, really, it's going to be the key development in British politics over the next few years.
So that's really interesting. Anne Widdecombe was saying earlier on that the atmosphere here is like the atmosphere used to be in the heyday of the Conservative Party. You're a pollster, you're watching what's going on. The fact we've grown to this number, we've got 4,000 people packed into the NEC, there is a feeling here, isn't there, of optimism. And I've asked every single member, is this just about growing this movement, or is this being about being the party of government at the next election? All of them have said it is possible to be the party of government.
Absolutely, and I think that's a real key message that's coming out. There is real belief here that in 2029, I mean, look, you've got to remember and take into account the fact that Nigel himself came into the election race to stand as a candidate at pretty short notice. What Reform has achieved so far has really been without an established branch structure. It's been without many councillors being elected across the country. Of course, we hope that will happen next May. And therefore, when you take that into account, when you look ahead to the next general election, if this momentum can be maintained, and the signs are that it can from what we've seen happen since the election already, then that really does show you that Reform UK has a real prospect of continuing to take politics in this country by storm.
I've never seen you so smiley.
Oh, well, no, I'm very happy. I'm very happy. I'm a happy YouTuber, and, I report on the things that are going on my channel on YouTube. And it's, I'm really, really optimistic. There's optimism in the air. Of course, you've got to be sensible. These things aren't easy. But what we do have in Reform now, already you've seen very credible people like James as Reform MPs. Very, very credible people. That any fair-minded voter, I think, looking at this, will think these are serious people, right? This is a serious political party. And so that ambition has to be matched. That 2029 ambition, or maybe 2028, we'll have to wait and see how Keir Starmer how long he can cling on for. That ambition of becoming a governing party is a very real and realistic one.
Michael, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.
Cheers.
That's Michael Heaver there. Just before I go downstairs, I want to draw your attention to the speakers this afternoon. We've got some really good speakers this afternoon for you. And also, I'm hoping that you're enjoying this insight into the behind the scenes of what is going on here at the NEC in Birmingham. One other thing that I want to mention is Nigel's speech tomorrow. But before we get there, let me just tell you what's going on here. 3 o'clock, Rupert Lowe. 3:15, we've got Lee Anderson. Richard Tice, Deputy Leader of Reform UK, at 3:30. And Zia Youssef, our Chairman, at 4:45. And of course, Nigel will be concluding today's speeches. And that is all happening at 4 o'clock. That's at 4 o'clock today. Now, also, just one other thing that I need to tell you. Tomorrow, day 2 of conference, Nigel will also be closing the conference. So that is about 1:30 tomorrow. That is not a speech to be missed either. So just make sure that you're staying around and watching Nigel's speech tomorrow at 1:30. Well, as you can see, people coming back from lunch, feeling rather replete, actually. Let's go and talk to this lovely lady. Hello, how are you?
Hello, I'm Maria.
Yes, you are. You are. So you are indeed Maria. Tell all our viewers and listeners who you are and why you got involved with the Reform.
Okay, so I am a local councillor for Bridlington and Central, if you like, up in East Yorkshire. And I was a Conservative councillor, and I realised I didn't want to vote for them when it came to the general election. So why am I representing them? And I chose a party that I went to the conference in Doncaster. You were speaking. I saw the contract. I thought, Yeah, that's what I want to stand for.
Now, I've heard amazing things about you. A passionate young lady. You've been campaigning extremely hard. Are you enjoying it?
I love it. So the amount of people I've met that have just been so supportive, encouraging. I've made new friends, and we've really built like our own community of people that support each other. And then we do good in the community together, and it's just really inspirational to be part of.
And just looking around here, I mean, I've been around long enough to remember that when it was kind of like a couple of hundred of us in a room. Here we are, thousands of people packed into this enormous auditorium in the NEC in Birmingham. Your thoughts?
It's just fantastic. It shows that our little community in Bridlington and the Wolds, actually there's thousands of like-minded people. You are not alone. You have no shame to say I support reform, because there's so many wonderful people here who really care about our nation and other people and want the best for our nation.
And in terms of your local community, what are the most pressing issues on the doorstep?
So we have a hospital that is just in decline, even though it's quite a new building. So it's not used, it's got empty wards. That's a really personal thing for our area, is our NHS services. Our doctors and GPs have been merged together, so you can practically not even get to see a GP. It really resonated when you said a whole month for a GP. That's if you can get in. So that's the biggest area for Bridlington.
And I obviously talked about that this morning, the numbers of people waiting to see their GPs, primary and secondary care waits as well. What about things like immigration? The main parties aren't touching on that.
No, so there is a real unrest and unease about what's going to happen to our communities. In Bridlington, in the Wolds, there's lots of beautiful villages, and they don't seem to realise what's going on. But there's individuals within each community that have got really big concerns, and they feel completely ignored and isolated. And reform's giving them that voice, and they are just, coming in their droves to the community we've created.
And is there a sense that we are on a journey here?
Yes, so it feels like it was very small acorns at first, and what's happening is the momentum and the pride in being part of something bigger, where we are willing to stand up and say, no, we value our communities, we value each other, and we want to make a big difference. It's just growing and growing. It's beautiful.
And also, you're a young lady. It's fantastic to see young people involved. Is this something that is reserved for older people?
Oh, no, not all. So I am a mother, and for me it's about creating a future for my son, and it's also about creating a future for my nieces and my nephews and their children. I'm already thinking about being a grandma. Maybe it's for people who think ahead.
Wow, talk about thinking ahead. Maria, thank you so much. You're doing an amazing job. Keep it going.
No, you're welcome.
Thank you. Right, if you'd like to come with me, we're just showing you behind the scenes of the event here in the NEC. As you can see, people coming back in after lunch. So the speeches resume in about 15 minutes time. I can see Rupert Lowe over here. We're going to be talking to Rupert in just a minute. Obviously walking past the Reform UK bus as well. But there's a reason I've brought you over here, and that is to meet a young man called Max Harrison, who was our parliamentary candidate in Faversham and Mid-Kent. Hello.
Hello, David. How are you? You well?
I'm very, very well. What do you make of this, Max?
I think it's absolutely wonderful. 4,000 patriots in the sort of the Conference of Common Sense. It's brilliant, David. I mean, it's exceptional to actually hear policies and politicians speak so much pride and passion about our country. It's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Now, you are a younger person. You are also, you've appeared on my show on Talk a number of times as part of my Future Politics panel. Just in terms of the issues that resonated on the doorstep, what is it that is driving people to turn to reform?
Again, it's this idea that the establishment hasn't benefited British people. And for young people, when we can't get a home, when our education system is totally and utterly devalued, it's that sense of actually standing up for the British people, putting their interests first. And that's why lots of young people, myself included, are getting behind reform, because they can see a party that stands up for them, that represents them and their values.
So just in terms of this event today, I think people are surprised. I think the mainstream media are watching very carefully what we're doing. We can see the mainstream media are outside. I was also thinking, I wonder whether Number 10 and the Labour Party are watching what's going on.
Of course, sir, absolutely. I mean, we can see that Labour support is dwindling every single day. Starmer is incredibly unpopular, and that's only going to increase the more that he's in Number 10. So yeah, of course they're watching. They're scared, David. They're terrified. We came second in so many seats in the general election. Conservative brand is broken. We are the alternative.
And what would you say to people who say, oh, well, look, this is a bunch of racist, xenophobic people crowded out into a room?
They are so totally wrong. And the kind and tolerant left, they can call us all the names in the world, All 4,000 people in here, they're people who are happy, who believe in Britain, and that's nothing to be ashamed about. We are people who love this country, and it's wonderful to see so many people here today.
And you've been working very hard on the ground, actually, in terms of trying to spread the word and making sure more people are involved. Anne Widdecombe told everyone they had to go out and grab 10 friends. You weren't allowed to share them between a husband and wife. You had to grab 10 of your own friends and spread the word. Do you get a sense that is happening?
Oh, absolutely. With the Priory Ward by-election we just had, all the other parties, they said we wouldn't have a Scooby-Doo's chance of getting close to winning. We came a strong second place. We crushed the Conservatives. Something is happening out there. At a local level, I think for the Kent County Council elections, we're going to see a historic win for reform.
Okay, and just finally, if I may, Max, tell people at home who maybe are undecided why they should join Reform UK.
Because for the last few decades, we've had career politicians who have not stood up for ordinary men and women in this country. If you want a better future for Britain, you've got to get behind the change you want. You've got to vote for reform.
As you can see, future Cabinet Minister. Max, thanks very much indeed. Right, let's go over here and meet this lovely lady. Hello, this is June Mummery, who was in the European Parliament with me. And you know a bit about fisheries?
I do, I certainly do. I know that we haven't taken back full control of our waters or the resource. I know that.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, actually, because, of course, the Brexit opportunity was to do exactly that, to fight for the coastal communities, something Rupert Lowe campaigned very heavily on with your help.
Yes.
Could you explain to people what that means? Why haven't we taken back control?
I don't think that the want was there. I think that we have civil servants don't know how to do it. I don't think they know how to take back.
Do they
full
want
control.
to?
No, I don't think they do. It's a lot easier to stay working at home, just doing a few bits and pieces here and there and shuffling a few papers around and pretend you're doing a job when they've done absolutely nothing.
And just paint a picture, if you can, of the fishing industry, particularly in East Anglia. As you know, I live there, but the decimation of that industry.
Huge decimation. I mean, there's 186 coastal seats. All of those are practically worthy of having a fishing industry. We have 84% of the UK fisheries is the under 10 metre boat, which is a day boat, and they're just about finished. Whereas the EU are having new boat vessels built. 80% of the fish that the EU catches still comes from our waters.
You see, I don't think people will believe you.
Well, they will, because if anyone want to come and give me a call, I can explain the whole thing to them. These vessels that are plundering our waters are not even regulated. They're unmonitored. And we have problems out at sea because we don't know who's catching what. And let's face it, Brexit was a golden opportunity to take back full control, to rebuild our deprived seaside towns, which need industry. Because at this minute, the government on this net zero windmill, I call it the sometimes energy. Because it's only sometimes. If the sun don't shine or the wind don't blow, so really it's called the sometimes energy.
How pertinent that is. Can I just ask you on a personal note? I mean, you and I go back many, many years. If you look back at our previous conferences, 200 people in a village hall, not quite, but 200, 300 people, and now look at this at the NEC. What are your thoughts?
I'm blown away. This is electric. Absolutely sensational. And like I say, we've done a lot of different conferences, different meetings. But this is sublime. This is big. This is huge. There's something in the atmosphere as well. I mean, the Brexit Party was great, but this is electrifying.
Now, I've spoken to lots of the 5 MPs. I've spoken to Nigel as well. I was very impressed by what not only Nigel said, but also what Anne said, which is they passionately believe that Reform won't just grow, it will become the party of government at the next election.
100%. That's a dead cert. I mean, get down the bookies and put your money on Nigel Farage. That's what I say. Because
I say so too.
He will be in number 10. And should I just say, he deserves to be in number 10. He deserves to be there. And there's many MPs out here who will be standing. They deserve. Because do you know what, David? We work hard. We work very hard. We did with the Brexit Party, and I'm certainly still working hard. And we graft, and we deserve to be there.
I totally agree with you, June. Just very quickly, in terms of Nigel's speech this afternoon, what are you looking forward to?
I just love watching Nigel. No, I just know that'll be great. All the speeches will be great. Anne's was great. The new MP, bless him.
James?
Yeah, rookie.
Yeah.
Done well. The SAS guy, fantastic. I've got my wonderful friend Rupert Lowe. He's on next. Oh, they're all great. They're all just great people.
And I think it's just worth saying, in Brussels, we were a very close team, and that team continues to this day.
100%. I've been bumping into different people, and you do. You give everyone a hug and where you've been, I haven't seen you, but that's like, it's like we've never been apart.
Well said, June. Thank you so much for your time. June Mummery there. It is also worth mentioning that Nigel tomorrow will be wrapping up day 2 of our conference at 1:30 with something of a call to action. So make sure you don't miss that, 1:30 tomorrow. Let's go back onto our Reform UK bus. As you can see, more people are now appearing. I'm just trying to get up the stairs. I've got people in the way. Right. Right. And here we are. Right, so I'll just wait for my camera. Hello, Martin Green. Turn round. So, Martin Green, you are essentially head of Scotland.
Well, that's very nice of you to say so, David. I'm certainly, the man that's helping us achieve what Nigel and the leadership want us to do.
And just in terms of that, I was up with you in Scotland campaigning, wasn't I? There is real tangible change in Scotland, and I think you've done a great job in trying to persuade people. And in fact, the numbers turning out to that event we went to together were quite remarkable.
We've had several events now, pubs, hotels, well in excess of 100 people turning up, middle of the week sometimes, just to see what's happening, get involved, and it's really, really, really positive.
And people are now coming to you in terms of volunteering, in terms of the structure. That hasn't always been the case, has it?
No, we had a regional structure in place before, which was quite minimal. Now we have reached the point where we're building up a whole branch network, and it's quite phenomenal, the numbers that are getting involved. The party's grown exponentially over the last couple of years.
And Ant Middleton was talking about the United Kingdom, saying how important those constituent parts are, like Wales, for example, and Scotland. Is there a sense that actually the SNP is now dead, that the union is paramount, and we need to keep it at all costs and work together?
Absolutely. All the polls show that support for independence has fallen in the last 10 years. 10 years just the other day since the independence referendum. Support's now less. Peak nationalism is hopefully, I think, past.
So just talk us through the calendar for Scotland. What's next?
So what's next? We're going to continue building those branches. We have some by-elections to contest. We have about almost 30 by-elections in the pipeline. And then we work towards 2026, that Scottish Parliament election, where the polls are showing we're doing very well.
Yeah, so what do the polls show exactly?
They are showing we are going to get MSPs elected anywhere between 6 and 15, 16. So a lot of work to do. We're not complacent. We have a lot to do in the next couple of years. But, it's looking good.
Well, Martin, you're doing a fantastic job in Scotland, as always. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you very much.
That's Martin
Thank
Green there, head of Scotland there. I'll just wander back down the bus. I know we haven't got long until this afternoon. To go until this afternoon's speeches. Just 5 minutes to go until those speeches. Let's go and talk to this gentleman here. Hello. Hello. What's your name? Tell me, David, why are you here? What do you make of it so far?
Oh, the day's fantastic, isn't it, really, to be honest? But I'm here because, literally every policy aligns to what I believe in and what I want. So why not?
And which policies particularly grab you?
Obviously immigration, big one. But the ones around tax, really big for me as well. About the NHS, big. And justice. I love listening to Anne earlier. She was absolutely dynamite, wasn't she?
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Professor Aradarsi, I mentioned this right at the beginning in my speech, he says the NHS is in a critical condition. Well, what's more, he read my report. I wrote it 2 years ago.
It's a bit cheeky, isn't it? And a bit similar to you, I've got friends that work in the NHS, and they tell me about the budget waste and the stuff that goes on the ordering of stock that they do just to keep their budgets, and just think, that's crazy. They're ordering machinery and stuff that they don't need. But yet they just carry on doing it, and they're allowed to get away with it, which is just bonkers.
And if you could just paint a picture of the atmosphere here for people who are watching, and many people around the world are actually watching this on live stream. I've had loads of messages coming in saying the atmosphere looks incredible, it feels like a very electric event. How would you summarise what you've seen so far?
Yeah, I'd say it's definitely electric, but for me I'd say friendly is the word, getting to speak to people that you don't know exists until you come to a place like this. You go to work, people roll their eyes at you because you're a reform supporter. But actually, it's nice to be around people that just chat to, friendly. I've spoken to strangers, tens of them today. I would never normally do that in the real world. So yeah, no, it's been fantastic. What a great day so far.
Fantastic. And for those people watching thinking, well, I kind of would like to get involved or I'm interested, what would your message be?
Oh, I'd say definitely do it. I mean, already we're only halfway through the day. I'm more empowered today to go and speak to my friends and say, look, you need to pull your finger out and get involved. They hold the same views, but they either don't vote, they're either not a member, or they're not politically active. So I think that's going to be a key takeaway for me today, to go and pull my finger up my arse and get it done.
And finally, who are you looking forward to seeing most? And this is probably a caveated question this afternoon.
Well, actually, it's not Nigel, is it? I really like Rupert. I've got to say, I do love Nigel, but I actually really big fan.
Oh, Rupert's going to love that.
Really big fan of Rupert.
Fantastic. Thank you ever so much. Right, let's very quickly get a final comment. Let's go over here and meet these two lovely people. Hello. How are you?
Yes, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too. So tell us why you're here, what you make of it so far.
Well, obviously, I'm one of the candidates, Lee Taylor.
You are indeed.
I am against Rishi Sunak, obviously, in the current election. I wouldn't be anywhere else today, and you know that. So,
I mean, it is extraordinary watching the demise of Rishi Sunak, isn't it?
yes, it is. I'm very upset that so many people clung to him in the election, because obviously the Survation polls showed Labour close behind. They weren't close behind. And if people want to switch to Reform UK, they can.
And what do you make of the atmosphere today?
Wow. Stoic, innit? It's amazing.
And your thoughts?
It's absolutely amazing in here to see everyone come along today and be supportive of reform. I was up in North Wales in Dwyfor Meirionnydd, and the economy has been absolutely disastrous. So the fact that we have a party willing to invest in growth in the country for the next generation is really important.
And how important is the union for you?
Very important, absolutely so. And I think it's a point of pride that Wales is part of that union, and the fact that they have that opportunity for that perspective put forward as well, which is quite rare. So I'm very grateful to Reform to be here today. Thank you.
And finally, who are you most looking forward to seeing this afternoon? And maybe you need to be a bit careful what you say.
I'm going to say Richard Tice, even though...
Oh, Richard Tice, gold star for him.
He's the main reason I joined the party. He stood down for Nigel, which was very important, and I do believe Nigel is a charismatic kind of person that we need leading. However, Richard Tice, to me, he shows that decency, that dignity, and he's a good leader as well. So, yeah, I'm a Richard man, but I look forward to meeting Nigel Farage tonight at the party.
Beautifully said. And finally, who are you most looking forward to seeing?
Oh, it has to be Farage, doesn't it? Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to his speech, and just the enthusiasm in here. It's amazing.
Well, just you wait. Thank you very much to both of you. Thank you for watching. I have to dash now because I have to introduce this afternoon's speeches. We will continue our live streaming here. Don't go anywhere.